بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا وسندنا وحبيبنا محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا وداعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا وبعد. Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it that a person should understand seerah. He should understand the Arabic language. He should understand the history of Islam. He should understand the saying of those who are professionals and experts in that field. And then he can come up with the tafsir of the Quran. This is why the highest level of tafsir is, the first level is tafsirul Quran bil Quran. That the Quran itself explains its verses. Like we look in Surah Al-Fatiha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Oh Allah, put us on to the path of those people that you have bestowed your mercy and your ni'mats upon. Who are those people? In the verses in Surah An-Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّبِيِّينَ وَالصِّدِّيقِينَ وَالشُّهَدَاءِ وَالصَّالِحِينَ وَحَسُنَ أُولَٰئِكَ. So the Quran did the tafsir of its own verse. Tafsir al-Quran. The Quran khud tafsir करता है अपने आयात की. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does the translation of His own verse by the Quran itself. So the highest level of tafsir is tafsirul Quran bil Quran. That the Quran does the tafsir itself. Second level is tafsirul Quran bil hadith. That if you do not find the explanation of the Quran ayat in the Quran itself, then you look at the Mubarak life, the blessed life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about how was the walking, talking of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a hadith mentions that whatever the Quran said, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it. Whatever the Quran said to not to do and to avoid, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam avoided that. So he was the practical Quran. If something was not understood with the Quran itself, then the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was taken. Number 3, if something is not clear in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then is the life, the hayatu sahaba, the life of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose them because they had qualities, that they took ilm, they took Quran and hadith directly from the Mubarak chest of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is why it's important to keep their sayings in front of us. The greatest, now there's 2 names we must keep in mind from amongst the Sahaba Ikram. The greatest mufassir of the Quran, does anybody know? Ibn Abbas is one name. Anyone else? Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, the greatest mufassir of the Quran. How do we know that? Abu Wa'il rahmatullah alayhi in a hadith, it mentions in Sahih al-Muslim that in the gathering of all the Sahaba Ikram, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu stood up and he said, by Allah, from amongst all of you, I know the most of the Quran and its meaning. And he says that I was in that gathering and none of the Sahaba Ikram rejected what he said. In another place is mentioned that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, he said, there is no verse of the Quran and no surah of the Quran that I do not know about where it was revealed and for what circumstances and for whom it was revealed. So it was clear in front of the Sahaba. So when something takes place in front of the Sahaba Ikram, this means that it was accepted by everyone that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu was the highest ranking, not Qari, Mufassir of the Quran. He understood it the most. Second name that comes is Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu. And this is such a miracle of how Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, he says that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, ana ibnu 10 sinin. He said, I was only 10 years old when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. Ab bataye 10 saal ka bachcha. He's only 10 years old and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has already left this world. So ulama ikram have said that how can it be that he is such high when it comes to tafsir? So they looked at the riwayats, and one mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went out for hajat. He went out to fulfill the call of nature. So before he came back, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu took the water and everything that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam needed to make wudu, he put it there. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back and said, who did this for me? Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said, Ya Rasulullah, it was me. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a special dua for Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Allahumma allimhu at-ta'wil wa faqihhu fi din. Oh Allah, teach him the tafsir. Oh Allah, you teach him the understanding of deen directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh Allah, you teach him. That's why a 10-year-old can also get the knowledge of Quran and Hadith. Another narration says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a dua for him. Allahumma allimhu al-kitab wa allimhu al-hikmah. Oh Allah, teach him Quran and teach him hikmah, which is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the wisdom behind it. This is why in many cases Sahaba Ikram were not able to tell why this verse was revealed. You will find that this young child already knew that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed behind this verse. So Ibn Abbas, you will be hearing these names accordingly inshallah, but we should know Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu is the highest ranking, and Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu. Then we go into the thing which is number 3 when it comes to tafsir. Hadith, Quran, Hadith, Sahaba Ikram. Number 4. Number 4 is the tabi'een, the people who came. So it goes in order. It's nothing very complicated. It goes in order. Who are the next people to come? They took it directly from the Sahaba Ikram, the tabi'een. And you will hear names like Ibn Sirin rahmatullah alayhi. You will hear about Dhahak bin Hazam rahmatullah alayhi. You will hear great names inshallah mentioned about the tafasir later on. But tabi'een, the next in line. This is why we don't cut all of this and go to directly from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is what I understood. No, what did the Sahaba understand from it? What did the Tabi'een understand from it? And that's how it goes. If you keep yourself connected, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will save you from the effects of shaitan, because these are the people who had firasat. The fifth and the very last aspect of doing tafsir is to look at all of these aspects, and if you do not find something that is mentioned in all of these, then the alim who is doing the tafsir, according to his firasat, his taqwa, he can give an opinion. According to his ilm, he can say that according to my opinion, this ayat probably means this, but he will say Wallahu a'lam at the end. He will say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So the firasat, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned, ittaqu firasat al-mu'min fa innahu yanduru bi nurillah. Save yourself from the firasat of a believer, because he sees from the noor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Apne aap ko momin ke firasat se bachao, kyunke momin Allah ke noor se dekhta hai. This comes in a hadith. What does firasat mean? Ulama ikram have said firasat is not something you can get from books. Firasat is a divine understanding that comes directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, according to one's iman and taqwa. Jitna iman और taqwa एक शख्स के अंदर होगा, उतना Allah पाक उसके ऊपर firasat खोलेंगे. That Allah will open things to him that you cannot find in books. How do we understand this? You will see in the life of Umar radiallahu anhu, in many occasions before the Quran was revealed, he had understood what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. He had understood what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wants. The firasat of Umar radiallahu anhu is especially mentioned in some cases. It is mentioned when Ali radiallahu anhu at one time, he saw a dream. And in his dream, he saw that he is sitting in the gathering of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this was the time of the Khilafat of Umar radiallahu anhu. So he was sitting in his dream. He is sitting in the gathering of Umar Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving out dates. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives out one date to the Sahaba. Then he starts from his right, and then second time Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives another date out, and after the second date he woke up. Ali radiallahu anhu woke up. So he thought to himself that I should go and tell Amir al-Mu'mineen, I saw such a beautiful dream that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving me dates, and I'll find out that. So he came in the gathering of Umar radiallahu anhu, who was the Amir al-Mu'mineen of that time. So Umar radiallahu anhu was also giving out dates at that time. And Umar radiallahu anhu began from his right, started giving dates out, one, a second one. And when it came to Ali radiallahu anhu, he stopped at 2. He did not give him the third, even though he had more there. So he said, "Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, why don't you give me more dates?" So without even knowing the dream of Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, "Oh Ali, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave you more than 2, I would have given you more than 2." This is the firasat of Umar radiallahu anhu. He didn't know the dream that Ali radiallahu anhu had seen, but he already understood of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have wanted. So this is very important to understand, that when it comes to giving your opinion, those people will be given preference who have taqwa, who have iman, who have devoted their lives for translating the Quran and fulfilling the commands of Allah in accordance to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Another great story about firasat, Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi was teaching in his gathering. A Majusi, a fire worshipper, came. Before coming in the gathering, that Majus, he wore the clothing of a Muslim, so that no one will find out that he's a fire worshipper. And he came in the gathering of Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi, and he said, "Ya Shaykh, tell me this, what is the meaning of ittaqu firasat al-mu'min fa-innahu yanzuru bi nurillah?" So instead of translating the hadith, Junaid Baghdadi rahmatullah alayhi said that this hadith means that you should accept Islam. You understand, brothers? This was the firasat of those people, that just by looking at things, by indications, they would know that what is the whole story. This is why these type of people who have firasat, even from the mutaakhirin ulama ikram, they are going to be given preference when it comes to the tafseer of the Quran. Another thing that is very important to mention, how the revelation of the Quran took place. We all know all the details. I'm just going to mention some important facts. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's chest Mubarak, ulama ikram have said, is the most protected vault of the Quran. Is the most protected vault of the Quran. How is that? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose that place to reveal the Quran. Ala qalbika litakuna min al-mundir. On your heart, not on paper, not on books. On your heart we're going to reveal it. Ulama ikram have said 2 times the Quran has been revealed. One from Lawh Mahfuz. The first time from the Lawh Mahfuz, from the preserved tablets, onto the Baytul Izzah, which is on the firmament of the world, where the angels, they make worship and do tawaf. This is exactly on top. If you look in line of the Kaaba, it goes all the way to the heavens, and that's the place where the angels make their ibadat. So the first time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the whole Quran onto Baytul Izzah, on the night of Laylatul Qadr, inna anzalnahu fi Laylatul Qadr. The second time the Quran was revealed into this world is in a gradual way. In 23 years it was gradually revealed onto the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first wahi that came in the mountain of Hira, we know 3 miles from Makkatul Mukarramah, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, that Aisha radiallahu anha says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam before getting wahi would see true dreams, and after seeing those dreams he would feel like doing ibadat in seclusion. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go into the mountain of Hira and make ibadat there, and some of Muhaddithin have said that the 17th of Ramadan, and some have said 19th, some have said the 21st, and they said the 17th of Ramadan after Maghrib, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the first verses of the Quran. Which were the first verses? Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So inshallah I'll be asking the basic questions I ask you, inshallah you can speak out, there is no problem in that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. How did that happen? The angel came and he pressed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jibreel alayhi salatu wasallam pressed, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in the hadith, it was unbearable pain. It was unbearable pain, and then said Iqra. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ma ana biqari. Second time again he said Iqra. He grabbed him and said Iqra. He said Ma ana biqari. Third time, after the third time, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. That recite with the name of that Lord, your Lord that has created you. Khalaqal insana min alaq. He has created insan from a blood clot. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Recite in the name of your generous Lord. Inshallah, when these ayats come, I'm going to do the detailed tafsir of it. But at this time, we understand these are the first ayats that were revealed. The last ayats, according to majority of the mufassirin, they are the ayats of Suratul Ma'idah. Does anybody know? The last ayats of the Quran? Suratul Ma'idah, Al-Yawma Akmaltu Lakum. It was the 9th of Dhul Hijjah in the plains of Arafat. Arafat about 10 miles away from Makkatul Mukarramah, and some have said it was the night time after Isha time, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the final verses of the Quran, Al-Yawma Akmaltu Lakum Deenakum Wa Atmamtu Alaykum Ni'mati, which is clear in the fact that we have completed the deen. We have chose Islam for you. This is what the verses say. So we understand now the first and the last verses are clear. Makki and Madani Surah. Now we know that the Quran is divided into Makki and Madani Surah. Many people think that Makki Surah are the ones revealed in Makkah, Madani are the ones revealed in Madinatul Munawwar. This is incorrect. It is on the basis of the hijrat of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. According to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hijrah has a lot of importance. Going out in the path of Allah, moving for the sake of Allah, this has a lot of importance. Our calendar begins from the hijrah. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam moved, not when he was born, not when he was given nubuwah, when he moved from one place to another, that's for the sake of Allah, for the sake of the deen of Allah. That became the first day of our calendar. So also Makki and Madani Surah, you will see that the surahs that were revealed before the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are known as Makki Surah. The surahs revealed after the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are known as Madani Surah. Even if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in Hudaybiyah, even if it was time of Fath Makkah, he's in Makkah, but it was after the migration, those surahs are also Madani surahs. So this is very important to understand. Ulama Ikram went into the detail, and they said that in Makki Surah you will find that Allah addresses all mankind. Ya Ayyuhan Nas is used mostly in Makki Surah. So there are 86 Makki Surahs and 28 Madani Surahs. So in both of them there is a difference, that in the Madani Surahs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks mostly about the ahkam, that people have already accepted Islam, now how to run the ummah, how to get the deen into their lives. And before they accept Islam, about da'wah and about akhirah, about the greatness of Allah, about Jannah, Jahannam, all of this, and the previous nations is mentioned in Makki Surah, the ones which are revealed before the migration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, these are just points I'm mentioning, inshallah. If you want to take notes, you can. You'll find this in the books of Tafseer also. Sab'ati ahrufin. Quran was revealed in 7 methods. Now this is a great question, and this is something that it's kind of complex to understand for general people. They don't understand it. This is why we have to talk about this. And inshallah, as much information I can do muzakara of today, we'll do it, inshallah, and we'll continue next time then. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the hadith of Sahih Muslim, he was sitting by the pond of Banu Ghifar. Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said that, O Prophet of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has advised you and commanded that your ummah should recite the Quran in one method. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that ask forgiveness from Allah, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give permission that my ummah can recite in other methods also. My ummah does not have the ability to recite in one method. So Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam went back. Second time he came, he said, O Rasulullah, 2 readings are allowed. Again Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, my ummah will not have the ability, and ask Allah to forgive us. And then third time he came, he said 3 readings are allowed. So again Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam said, my ummah will not have the ability to recite in 3 methods. So the 4th time Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam came, he said, O Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed your ummah to recite in 7 readings, and whichever of those readings are recited, it will be considered correct and from the Quran. In another hadith is mentioned, Inna hadha al-Quran unzila ala sab'ati ahrufin faqra'u ma tayassara min, that this Quran has been revealed in 7 methods of reading. Recite whichever one is easy for you. Okay? So from Quran and hadith we know that 7 methods are allowed. Now moving forward, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught the Sahaba Ikram. Some learned from Anas ibn Malik, some radiallahu anhu, some learned from Ubay bin Ka'b, some learned. So they had their students now. They were learning from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and passing it on to their disciples. So now Qiraat itself became a field. Qiraat itself became a field. So how to learn to recite the Quran in different Qiraats under the 7 methods. When we say 7 methods, does not mean 7 qirats. 7 methods means that there are only 7 ways to bring that change which is permissible by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that does not break the meaning of the Quran. Now under those 7 methods, qaris are allowed to recite under those, so they can come up with different qira'ats, can be many, but as long as they are under that 7 methods. And ulama ikram have went into detail that I'm not going to go into that detail, that change of noun, change of verb, and they said that these things, sometimes they don't make a difference. Ba'id bayna asfarina, ba'id bayna asfarina, same meaning. And they said again, maliki yawmiddin, maliki yawmiddin. You hear imams recite this way, so it's nothing to be amazed about. It's allowed from the Quran. And then Musa, Muse, Wadduhe, Wallayli idha sajeh. These are things which are allowed. So 7 methods, and qira'ats can be many. So slowly, many qaris came into existence. At the end of the 2nd century, author named Abu Bakr ibn Mujahid rahmatullah, he wrote a book about 7 qaris, not about 7 methods of qira'at. He wrote about 7 qaris. And that book was such a success that everyone who recited that book and read it, they thought that only these 7 qaris understood qiraat. So they thought that only qiraat, maybe this was a great misconception in the ummah, that they thought that only Quran is allowed to read in 7 ways, but this is incorrect. If the qiraat is under the 7 methods which are permissible, then it will be okay to recite in that way. Which is the famous qiraat that we are using today? Hafs bin Sulaiman rahmatullah alayhi. Hafs bin Sulaiman and Asim. We know this, Hafs bin Asim. We hear this. This is the famous qiraat. But the full name is Hafs bin Sulaiman and Asim ibn Abi Najd al-Asadi rahimahullah. And these are people who are going to the disciples of the qiraat of Ibn Mas'ud and Ali radiallahu anhu. Our qiraat today, the famous one which we find in the Quran, this is the Hafs bin Sulaiman and Asim. This is the one that we use, and it goes all the way to Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, Ali radiallahu anhu, and to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So is the 7 qiraat understood, inshallah? We don't have to go too much into it. The reason we understand the 7 methods, because the Jam'ul Quran, how Quran was compiled, that is based on understanding this. You have to understand how the 7 qiraat work, and then you would understand that how Quran was compiled. This is the next big thing, inshallah, that we want to mention tonight, and then we'll see if we have time for more things. Jam'ul Quran. When it came to the time of Rasulullah sallallahu, how did they preserve the Quran? How did they preserve the Quran? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would recite the Quran quickly when Jibreel alayhi salatu wasallam would bring him the verses. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, don't worry. لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآن. It is our job. ये तो हमारा काम है कि हम इसको जमा भी करेंगे, हम इसको महफूज भी रखेंगे. سنقرئك فلا تنسى. We will teach you, you will never forget. This is why it is mentioned that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's chest Mubarak is the most protected place of the Quran, because Allah chose that this place, that Allah chose that we're going to preserve the Quran in this place. So at the time of Rasulullah ﷺ, hifz was the most famous way of preserving the Quran. Everyone was reciting and memorizing. Ubadah bin Samit radiallahu anhu says that in the Masjid Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that there were so many people learning and teaching the Quran that the voices would raise. And then Rasulullah ﷺ would say that read it calmly so you understand what you're reading. Don't make it so loud that you get confused. Aram aram se padho taaki samajh mein aaye. So this is how it was taking place. So women who were getting married, they would demand that don't give us money in mahar, teach us the Quran in mahar. Quran hame sikhao. If that was the memorizing the 10 surah, that would be the mahar. That's how much value there is. 10 verses or memorizing the Quran, that will be the mahar instead of money. So they gave importance to all of these things. They gave importance, but that's a different fiqhi masla, that if we can make that a mahar or not. We'll talk about that later, inshallah. So this was taking place to show the importance that women would also demand that teach them the Quran. Everyone was memorizing the Quran. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he encouraged writing the Quran also. He said to one of the first katib wahi, who knows this one? Who was the first Katib al-Wahi? Who wrote the Kitab, the Wahi, the first one to write the Wahi from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yes, Zayd bin Sabit radiyallahu anhu, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose him and told him, even though there are many hufaz, he said that what I'm reciting to you, write it down. And write it anywhere. He was writing it on parchments, he was writing on bones, he was writing on leaves. And he said, I would read it back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If there was a mistake, then we would fix it. So this is what was taking place. People later on became more Katib al-Wahi. There's Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu, there's many. So they were also writing later on. And some people amongst the Sahaba Ikram would write on a personal basis. That they would just, for themselves, they would say, we heard this ayat, we memorize it, let's just write it and keep it. So Quran was there in writing, but it was scattered in different places, on leaves, on bones, and here and there. Because many people already understood and memorized it. Now the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu came. The battle of Yamama took place. In the battle of Yamama, a great majma of the Huffaz Ikram were shaheed. Many of the Huffaz Ikram were martyred in the battle of Yamama. Now remember, I talked about the firasat of Umar radiallahu anhu. So Umar radiallahu anhu came with the fikr and concern. He said, he came to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu and he said, Oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, so many Huffaz Ikram have been martyred. And I fear that if we do not compile the Quran in one place, then it will be very difficult for us to preserve it later on. And this did not mean in memory. It meant that it was hard to facilitate people if we don't have it in writing. The teachers are dying themselves, right? So it was very difficult. So he said, first Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu denied. He said, how can I do something that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not do? This is the caution of the Sahaba Ikram, that when something they talked about that did not take place in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would not go close to that until there was a great need. So again, he said, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Nazr Sani kare. He said, think about it again. That we need this. Wallahi, there's nothing but khair in this if we compile it. Again, he said no. And many times he kept coming back. Finally, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu says that Allah gave me the sharh sadr, that I understood that this is something that the people need now. So who did he summon? He called Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu, the first scribe of Wahi at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, oh Zayd, you are young, you have understood the Quran, you are a hafiz of the Quran, and at the same time you are chosen first by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do kitabat. So we are appointing you to go around and get all, wherever you find the Quran written, get it all together. And we want to put it into one place, so that we can refer to it when the time of need comes. So Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu, again he said, please don't put me onto this task. And he said, if they told me to move and to haul a mountain, this was easy. But to be the person to compile the Quran and put it in one place, he said that this was extremely difficult for me. And slowly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me sharh sadha, that I should be, Allah opened my heart that I should be the one who should be doing this. So now, one very important thing, the caution of the Sahaba Ikram. Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu, great hafiz himself, there is great Huffaz Ikram around him. He could have just wrote it down from his memory. He could have asked some great hafiz and say that from the Sahaba, just write it down for me. Or we'll recite it and I'll write it. But he announced some conditions. He said, whoever comes with the written version of the Quran, of any portion, any surah, they have to bring 2 witnesses that this was written in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We understand? Is everyone following or falling asleep? This is a lot of information. This is important we know this, because inshallah, this is the basic thing. Many people, they bring up these objections. That why is the Quran this? At the time of Uthman, why did they do this? Why did they do that? And today you will find that online they're making these objections. That's why I'm letting everyone know these things, that inshallah you will feel content that this is the speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no change or alteration. So Uthman radiallahu anhu, before Uthman radiallahu, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu started the compilation of the Quran. Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu was going around, he was taking it from people. If they did not have 2 witnesses that this took place in the presence of Rasul, he would not take that ayat. This is how it was. He took every ayat with witnesses. And when he collected, finally the Quran was put into what we can say like a binder, a big book. But in that book, there were folios, small folders like of every surah. The ulama kiram have said that when it was compiled by Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu, he did not arrange the surahs in order. He just took the surah, and this is the folder of Surah Baqarah, and put it in there. This is the folder of Surah Ali Imran, put it in. So he put the verses in order, but the surahs were just kept in their own folios. It was not one book from cover to cover, but it was small booklets inside the bigger version of the book. And this book was called the In Arabic we say means the mother. So the reason they call this was the first and original version. And they said that whenever we need reference to the Quran, we can just pick up the and it has all the ways, the 7 methodologies of reciting it, and it also has all the surah and the verses. And everything was compiled there. Okay, so everyone understands up to here? This is the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Now the I'm going to refer to that as the the big book which had the folios of different surahs. So the was now in the hands, after Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu passed away, it was now in the hands of Umar radiallahu anhu, and it stayed this way in the whole time of Umar radiallahu anhu, his khilafat, and then he gave it to his daughter Hafsa radiallahu anha. When he passed away, it was transferred to Hafsa radiallahu anha. Now came the time of Uthman Ghani radiallahu anhu. Uthman radiallahu anhu's time was when Islam was flourishing quickly, and it was going all the way to the Byzantium Empire, it was going towards Iran, it was going towards far countries. Now newcomers are coming into the fold of Islam, and whenever a new person would come, he would learn the Quran. He would learn the Quran. But what happened was, when it was spreading so quickly, people were not understanding how does the 7 methodology work. So they learned the Quran from one person, and they would think that's the correct way. So they would learn it from another person, they would think that's the correct way. So Huzaifatul Yaman radiallahu anhu, he was in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Armenian and the Azerbaijan front. He was at that point, and he noticed a great ikhtilaf between the Muslims. So long story short, when he came back to Uthman radiallahu anhu, he said, "Oh Amirul Mu'mineen, I noticed something." He said, the people of Syria are reciting in the recitation of Ubay bin Ka'b radiallahu anhu, and they don't recognize any other recitation. And then he said the people of Iran, they are reciting in the recitation of Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, and they are not recognizing any other ways of recitation. And what is happening now is that they are saying that we are correct and you are incorrect. Ta'assub and strictness, and they became very rigorous when it came to qira'at, that I'm right and you're wrong. And al-a'yadu billah, when a person says that a verse of the Quran is not a verse of the Quran, it's kufr. If you say that this is not the Quran, al-a'yadu billah, that means you have committed kufr. Because our iman is that this is the speech of Allah subhanahu. So if a person did not recognize it, he would say that this is not the Quran, and they will start calling each other's kafir. This was a big fitna, and we have to understand that even in this day and age, the fatwa of even kufr is very important, that we understand that it should not be taken delicately. That people, they start calling each other kufr over a small basis. Kafir, he's kafir, he's kafir. But it's very important to stay away from these words. If a person is saying that I am a Muslim, then who are we to call him a kafir? Right? So this was taking place. Huzaifa radiallahu anhu said, I fear that the Ahl Kitab, like others, Jews and Christians, they fell into ikhtilaf of their own book. I fear that the Muslims will start doing the same. They will have versions of their Quran. So Uthman radiallahu anhu understood his complaint, because complaints were coming from Madinatul Munawwara also, that his own local people were having ikhtilaf. So he called all the great majma of the Sahaba Ikram, and he did mashura. This was the best way. Remember, whenever concern came, mashura came into existence. We know the importance of mashura in every time and every age, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instructed this. Then a problem comes, make mashura. So he called all the Sahaba and he said, what should I do? He said, people are falling into such ikhtilaf that they are calling each other kafirs. So the Sahaba Ikram, mawjood and present at that time, they said, "Oh Amirul Mu'mineen, what you suggest, we are going to follow." So Uthman radiallahu anhu said that the only authentic compilation of the Quran is the which is by Hafsa radiallahu anha. So he said that we should get that, and we should make copies of it. And when we make copies, or authentic copies of it, and we'll send it into all these countries that are becoming Muslim, and they would understand that these recitations are allowed. If it's something against that, throw it out. This is not the Quran. Okay, everyone is understanding now? So he said that we'll bring the and make copies of it. So now he appointed 4 Sahaba Ikram. Zayd bin Sabit radiallahu anhu was appointed that you have to make the copies of Then Sa'id ibn al-As, Abdullah bin Zubair, and one more Sahabi which comes by the name of Abdul Rahman ibn Hisham ibn al-Haris. These 4 Sahaba Ikram were appointed that you have to make 7 copies of the the authentic you have to make 7 copies of it, and while you make it, you put the surahs also in order. The surahs, remember I mentioned that the surahs were not in order, they were in folios. So Uthman radiallahu anhu's instruction was that when you make the copy of the put the surahs in order also in one book, that from one cover to the other, from Surah Fatiha to Surah An-Nas, put it all in one place. So people don't have to come up with any kind of ikhtilaf. So he said, okay, 7 versions of the They wrote it down, they put the copies into existence, the surahs were put into proper place, all of these things were ready, and then Uthman radiallahu anhu sent out these 7 copies of the One was kept in Madinatul Munawwara, the second was sent to Makkatul Mukarramah, the third was sent to Yemen, the fourth was sent to Syria, the fifth was sent to Basra, 6th to Kufa, and the 7th to Yemen. So and Bahrain. So all of these places were sent because Muslims were there now, and they sent qaris with those Qurans that this is the best way to recite, the perfect and authentic way to recite. If you have any other recitation that's not in here, it is not from the Quran. So everyone understand now? So 7 copies were made of the and now the command came from Uthman radiallahu anhu that whoever has any Quran written here and there, along with the because the surahs were not arranged. So along with the and all the other versions of Quran written here and there, Uthman radiallahu anhu made the hukum and command that they should be burnt in order to save the ummah from this great ikhtilaf. This is very big objection that people make, that this is the Quran that we have, this is the mazhab of Uthman radiallahu anhu, this is not, al-ayazu billah. No one should ever say anything about this great task that Uthman radiallahu anhu, he saved us from falling into this great division. Ali radiallahu anhu says that do not say anything about Uthman radiallahu anhu in regards to the Quran. Only speak in his favor, because whatever hukum he made and did was in our presence, is with our mashura and our advice. Ali radiallahu anhu was there, Ibn Masud, all of these great Sahaba were there, and Uthman radiallahu anhu made the decision that any other version that is not here and that is found here and there should be burnt, and these 7 copies that we have meant, we're going to unite the ummah onto this. We understand? Everyone understand, inshallah? So we have to understand this is the greatest book and the speech of Allah. There were German popes, they tried to compile different versions of the Bible. And they brought in as many copies of the Bible as they can. And they compared the verses of the Bible from here and there. And the report that came out was there were more than 200,000 places in the basic belief and version of the Bible that was different from one another. It was completely different. In the basic fundamental things, that their yaqeen and their belief, there was one Bible is saying this and the other is saying no, completely different. So in 1933, the Munich University, also in Germany, they said we're going to do the same research with the Quran. So they said let's get together as many Quran as possible. 42,000 copies of the Quran were brought together from different times, different years, different parts of the countries. And they said that besides the publishing mistakes, the ink going up and down here and there, it was no difference when they compared the words of the Quran. Because why? Sadaqallahu wa sadaqa Rasulullah. The sender is who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who brought the Quran, Jibreel Amin, the most trustworthy amongst the angels, and the one who conveyed it was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of all the creation. May Allah give us tawfiq and understanding. Jazakumullahu khair wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah.